All right, brother. When were you encouraged?
There's a bit of a. Should I take it off, Kev?
Yeah, you take that.
Yeah, the cost of running with the Lord Jesus Christ, even though it may not appear weak, strong in the eyes of the world. That was more like a challenge to me as I was preparing and an encouragement. Yeah.
You did. That's good.
I was encouraged by kind of, especially your gospel connection at the end, that run, saying that our strength is in Christ's weakness, that is where our power comes from. It's not from this outward show of, magnificence and glory. It's from that, his death and all that. So that was really encouraging to me.
Yeah, I was encouraged that it's not only the right thing to run with Christ, even though he looks weak. Like even when it came to David, like that was the right thing to do. So that idea that like this is a kind of trajectory is encouraging.
Yeah, I found your gospel connection really encouraging, the way you pointed us to Jesus, and then also just some of the connections you made, I appreciated. I just loved when you how you showed us how our Bible fits together and how this story points to these other stories, and yeah.
For me, you made Jesus really compelling in his weakness, as you were talking about how even though he wasn't weak, he allowed the appearance of weakness as he went to the cross, and he was strong, but the appearance of his weakness and his weak actions was, made me like admire him and appreciate him in a way.
Thanks for the word, brother. I was likewise encouraged, much of what they said, but I'll take it maybe a different route. I was very encouraged by when you cautioned us to take care of our status as the leader in God's house. It actually encouraged me to cautiously consider that. So I was grateful for that, encouraged by that. Thank you.
I was going to say that same thing, some of your application in the first point, that it's not just other people who can come in and usurp our power, but we often do that as well.
So I was just encouraged by the, I just felt satisfied, the way you set it up, and, when you said run with the weak king because he was the right king, that blessed me, and then I was satisfied. Because sometimes you can get set up, and then you're like,
I've done that.
Yeah, it was just, you fed me, and I appreciate it.
I would say just the importance of allowing the Lord to really check my motives, allow it for the Lord, and that I might not operate in manipulation, deception, people like Absalom in terms of ministry. So my heart is important.
So what did you try that you think you didn't quite succeed at, or what were the challenges you felt that you didn't quite meet?
I've tried to change up my format of the sermon. It worked to an extent, but the main thing was so in narrative, I love to kind of apply at each point, in depth. I felt I didn't do enough application for the good of everyone. So it was, the battle for me was, I wanted the story up front and its meaning, but then it kind of killed me on the application end.
So this may take this with a grain of salt, because this may just be my naivety, whatever
That word.
Yes. But your introduction of the sheep stealing, I saw it in the passage, but I've not seen it, not saying it doesn't exist, I don't know everything, but I haven't seen or experienced it in modern culture or seen it, I'm not that ingrained in it, so I didn't quite understand how those two connected. I mean, I had a lot of why questions throughout. I was like, so wait, why is this like that? Which then at the end, you did, when you came back to the image, you explained some of those whys. So I guess,
It wasn't immediately clear to me.
yeah, so just for someone naive like me,
No, no,
some of
bro.
those whys up front might help just to connect the dots a
You're
little
gonna make
better.
those
Yeah.
better, bro.
But yeah, it was a small thing.
So you threw me off really early because you jumped from Absalom and David to Jesus and the devil.
Yeah.
You just made devil king. So you probably shouldn't do that.
I did. So I had explanation for that.
It was just like, hold on a
It
second.
always gets me on these things. I did.
Yeah.
100%.
I'll speak to what you said about application,
Yeah, dude.
and even to use Ed's illustration of kind of like getting the snack but wanting the meal.
Yeah.
I felt like you missed an opportunity. You had hinted a lot throughout your first point, like some of the lines you said, like he told them what they wanted to hear. He used persuasive methods. He didn't let them see the true king. So some of these things where I thought you were maybe going to make an application of us to sin type of thing and how sin kind of gets at us. And that actually I think would have made sense with the title you gave that first point, Don't Run With Him. But instead your main application of that first point kind of compared us to Absalom. It compared us to the false king rather than the imperative you gave us. So I thought that was just a miss. The application you gave wasn't bad, but I thought it would have been bolstered had you had more
We make it better.
on us, how we don't run with the
Right.
false king.
Yeah.
For me, I guess I had a hard time following the organization of the sermon. I didn't get either of your points, or any of your points. I don't even know how many you had. Like, I was just like, we're walking through the story. Maybe I just missed it, but I had nothing in terms of what you were doing.
So you say I was too quick, or
I don't even know. I don't even remember hearing you say them. It's not that like I couldn't write them down. I don't remember you saying them.
right? Okay.
Like at like one point when you were like, you
Did anybody else
summarized
hear
and like jumped to
Yeah.
verse.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
You heard them all.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Cut
that's
that, man.
that's
I
helpful.
missed them all.
Oh.
I was
Oh.
in.
I'll
I had entered the rest.
State those. I'll state those things like crazy.
Everyone's running away. Yeah, I don't know. Everybody else.
Oh, that's, I hear you, bro.
And this is
Yeah.
recorded. It's great.
Yeah. Go on the internet. So the one thing that I was particularly a bit confused by, like I was trying to understand how you were setting us up for this,
Right.
was what's your take on David's weakness? Is it supposed to contrast with Christ?
Yeah.
Or- Because at one point you said, you know, this is the guy who conquers, who's defeated. Now he's fleeing, and he flees out of fear. So I'm like, okay, this is bad weakness.
Right.
Then you say, weakness does not mean faithlessness right after that. So I'm like, oh, and he repented in chapter 14. So I think you contrasted it in your gospel connection.
Yeah.
But in the before that, I was trying to set up like, okay, is this an example for us, or is this a teachable moment for us?
So I was trying to do it and not say it. That's where I felt.
The contrast.
So I was trying to do the contrast instead of saying, okay, by contrast, we see. So I'm trying to get away from that, from the kind of the rhetorical side of things.
Right.
But I'm
So
with you,
if
man.
that's the case, then
I'm
I
with
think
you.
the line that threw me off was the weakness
The
does
weak-
not mean
yeah,
faithlessness.
Absolutely with you. That's a good point.
But
Oh.
other than that, it would probably have lined up.
Yeah, dude. Oh man.
I think kind of getting back to what you said about application, I heard application in the first point, but the only application I really got from the second point was
Yeah.
to follow Jesus. So just maybe if you could have brought something out from the text.
Try again, Marsh.
So, I thought everybody's been talking about application, let me pick something else. So, I've only heard you maybe, I only think maybe 2 or 3 times, and this is a real technical thing, but I think that there's I think you need to vary it's not necessarily the cadence, but the fall of your sentences.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They all end downward.
Right.
And if there's a way, and it's not necessarily that it's displeasing or anything like that,
Right.
but I think
But
you
there's
could
a-
add emphasis to where you want emphasis
Yep.
to be laid, if you could vary that.
Right.
That sort of rhythm that you have is a little bit too predictable,
Yes.
and it becomes monotonous after a while, and it misses some of the like really good stuff that you're
Right. Yeah.
laying out. There's like,
Yeah.
I know it's gonna go sort of like
Yeah.
a certain pattern.
Right.
So I guess you'd have to listen to yourself and watch yourself, and
Yeah.
you could pick up on it a little bit better.
That's good. Thanks, Paul.
Tom, I felt like the story with Absalom and David came to like a abrupt ending almost.
Right.
And I was expecting you to kind of bring a little bit closure to it, or say
Right,
something
right.
about how it might end or something. So
Right.
it's like I was like,
Was that? Yeah.
what's gonna happen with these guys, you know? Even though it doesn't, I guess in the chapter, it doesn't really tell us that, but.
Sure.
I don't have anything else huge. This is, I guess, a small one. It may just, again, be me. But there was, not many, but there's just one kind of seemingly throwaway image that stuck out to me. Which, again, maybe it's just because it's me. But it was about the bread rising. And I couldn't quite tell what you meant the rising bread was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Was it climax? Was it tension, which I guess are 1 and 1, right? But for me, climax is eating the bread, right? So, again, it's a small thing, super small. But I got stuck for like 2 minutes being like, rising bread, what is this rising action? So, again, it might just be me.
Got hungry over there.
Yeah, I started thinking about bread too much. But I wasn't
I'll
quite
take
sure
the
what
bread.
you were getting at.
Make
with
that clear. I've tried to say it's the kind of tense part of the story, but
Okay, yeah.
that's good.
But, yeah. So,
So I thought that I thought your first point was better than your second one.
Yeah.
And you dealt with the text more in the
Me
first
too.
one.
Yeah.
But you just kind of like ended it.
Yeah.
You're like, you had this weird throwaway line there, and you're like, so there's that point, and moving on. It was like, wait, so there was no like carrying us on in the story. I think you'd done an interesting job telling the story, so it felt even more abrupt. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
like you kind of just tripped over yourself. So it felt awkward.
One thing maybe to just build on what Ed was saying, I think it'd be great if you utilize pauses more.
Yeah.
So one example in your first point with your application, you asked us 2 really good questions. I think your tone was good. How do we manipulate other people? How do we deceive other people?
Too quick.
But those are heavy questions, and you just blew past
Yeah,
them.
I felt
And I
like-
think they needed to simmer a little bit. Yeah. So that's 2 examples of where I think a pause could have been utilized, and there may be some other
Terrible
places
Bible
throughout.
study
But,
leader. I hate science.
I was in the rest, so I had everything asterisk today, but the run on
Oh, brother.
the run on greatness at the end
Yes.
didn't feel like I missed how like that was really tightly connected with what you were doing. Particularly the word greatness. It wasn't like real strength or weakness or whatever. And you went in on it pretty hard, and I didn't find it really persuasive.
Right.
Forgive me if someone's already brought this up in the first section. I think
Yep.
it just was a little distracting, and then I was curious like what it was adding, the point on like the touch of a leader. And it almost felt like a semi-application moment.
Yeah, I was just coming out for levity, which in my mind I was just trying to connect with the audience.
With the manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a story there, a personal story, which probably may have been clearer, but I take your point, man. It's
Yeah.
I did feel when I was saying it, like
It didn't come
you know,
across
when you
like.
say something, you're like
Yeah, I think we could. I think at least I felt like I could feel that from you because it was
That's good,
quick,
man.
and then it was almost like you were making it an
I
application
betrayed
moment.
myself.
You were asking us to like engage with it, like you all know this,
Yeah,
and then
yeah, yeah.
we were beyond it. So I was like, okay, was that like a even major point of application? I'm not sure.
Oh, that's good.
And maybe just kind of to double down on that.
And
Yeah.
it sounds
Like the joke about it has to be appropriate and not. So then I was like, wait a second, what is he talking about
right,
here?
right.
Yeah, that was just that was a caveat on a caveat on a caveat,
Right.
and I wasn't feeling the whole thing. You know,
Right.
Sort of piggybacking on what Kevin had said, I thought, so you did that greatness piece right after your gospel connection.
Yep.
And I anticipated the gospel connection, and I said, okay, yeah. Then I was anticipating something different other than
Right,
greatness on that piece. I thought, well, maybe, okay, now he's gonna show something about our weakness, and, 2 Corinthians 12 or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
do this and another.
Yeah.
But I
That's
got
a ton.
lost right there. I'm like, okay, I don't know what. I got the gospel connection,
Right.
and then it almost was like a,
The greatness run was not as compelling as
Yeah.
the gospel run.
right, exactly. It sort of went down. It took a step down instead of going up, which I thought it
Right.
could have gone up
Right.
if you kept on pressing on it.
I think, I just had questions about it, that you stated that David's was sin, was in rebellion against God. And was that what his sin really was? Maybe
I was
that-
just summarizing it.
because that's what I thought Saul's sin was, and that's what cost him the kingdom. So
Right.
I think, so I'm not sure if I would say David's sin was that of rebellion
So can
against
you
God.
can you help me understand what you're saying?
I think that's pretty straight. Sin of
So
rebellion.
I'm not understanding the straightness.
No. Okay, I thought, help me out,
Right.
that you said David's sin was that of rebellion against God, or he was in rebellion against God?
Is it not rebellion?
No, I'm asking you, you asking me.
So I did say rebellion. I'm asking you now.
So
You think
you
it's
said
not
David's
rebellion?
sin was rebellion?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm not sure if it was rebellion. I thought it was something else.
Like what?
What did you think was?
I thought it was adultery.
So I did say that.
Hmm?
I did say that as well in summary form,
But also you said rebellion too.
which is so I understand rebellion to be adultery to be
So
rebellion.
let's say that in the text itself, and in all of
Right,
scripture
right.
pertaining to David, does it ever say that David was in rebellion to
Oh,
God?
you're talking about the specific wording.
I mean, anywhere in the chapter that you dealt with, or in any place where it talks about David, does it ever accuse David of being in rebellion to God?
I think so.
Okay, some other time, unless you got it now, you can tell
Yeah,
us what scripture,
yeah.
if you know right
It
off.
says
now.
rebellion. Okay, so you're talking about wording, Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so what did you try? What did you do well?
Nothing. Yeah, I'm trying to. So again, I was trying to change the whole way I shape the sermon up, and then work on having the story up front, explanation but brief, so that I can try at least, in the hopes that will drip applications as I go along. So trying to be kind of to connect with the hearer. So I was trying to work on that a lot for this one.
Yeah.
I guess to start off as a broader one, I want to commend you because reading through this the first time, I was kind of sitting there like, I don't know what's quite going on or what we're doing here, and so I think even with some of the comments, I think you still brought us through the text well and helped me see kind of what was going on and brought me to your point. So I just want to commend you that. I think it was well executed, well done, and well explained as well. If that makes sense.
I thought that in the first point, you pointed out kind of, there's verse 1 and there's verse 12. Well, how do you get from there to there? And then you did that at the beginning, and then your explanation of the text is what answered that question you kind of started with, which made the content of that first section much more interesting. Because there's this interesting thing, I'm gonna set out to answer how this could have possibly happened. And we're along the journey with you. I thought that was great.
I appreciated just your main point statement. It's really catchy and memorable, so that was well crafted.
Sorry, getting here. Go ahead. Max, if you're gonna go, I'll come back.
Yeah, maybe just to build off of what you gave us up front with the main point and the 2 points. I mean, similar to Jeremy White, I read this text and thought, okay, let's see how he breaks this up. And I thought homiletically, just 2 points really simplified it for us, and it was just extremely helpful then to be able to follow your argument with the simplicity and structure homiletically. So I thought that was great. And they played off each other. It was kind of the yin-yang action.
I'll just, if I can jump in here now, which I kind of said before, but I really like the gospel connection that you made. The run, he appeared weak, he crossed the brook, and you took all these details, and I thought your connection to the John text was really strong and helpful.
I appreciated in your application in the first point that's how people, that's how power is usurped in the church, but aren't we like that sometimes? I like that you showed both sides of the coin, so it's not just watch out for the evil people, but also you could be the evil person, watch out for yourself. I appreciated that.
I did too. In addition to what has already been said, I just thought that it seemed to show a great facility. You knew the story well, and as you started unpacking it, particularly in the first section of unpacking what was happening, how he did it, and all those types of things, it was really easy to follow and really easy to appreciate. And it seemed like you were well versed in it. It seemed like you were comfortable in sharing the story.
I enjoyed sermon very much so. And first, just right off from the beginning, I loved just the analogy you used of the story as far as sheep stealing, because that's something that in circles that I've run, that's a very much a concern. For example, I remember one preacher saying that he didn't invite, or certain pastors don't invite certain preachers in their own city who might be good speakers, afraid that their sheep might run off. So yeah.
That's in Africa, bro.
Oh, sorry. Don't know if this was an intentional, non-verbalized rhetorical move you made, if that makes sense. But it was at the end of your second point where you're kind of making your way to Christ and Jesus. You were kind of, I can't remember exactly, I tried to write it down, but while I was writing it down, you answered my question, so I stopped. But it was kind of this point where you were kind of saying, yeah, David is all this, and I was waiting for you to say, yeah, he's the true king that looks weak, and so you should kind of follow something like him, but then Jesus is greater. But you didn't quite go there. Instead, you just kind of sidestepped that and went, but Jesus is that weak, true king that you're supposed to follow. And so it was just kind of an interesting flow where I was sitting there going wait, but what about the second point? And then you brought it in with Jesus, and I thought that was interesting, and it caught my attention. I was like, oh, here we go. So I thought it was good, personally.
I thought that you did a good job with kind of problematizing all the way along. Even once you got to your second point, there was a lot of short little things. You're like, well, how could this be? So it's also dialogical in nature, and you're answering the question, well, why would that be, and that kind of stuff, which I found helpful.
I appreciated your use of the context throughout. It wasn't. I feel like it wasn't really just here's what happened before. Let's go. Like you interwove it well throughout when it was necessary, and it helped me understand the text better. Well done.
I love the different ways and many times that you've pulled in the language of your argument throughout the sermon. That's something you do quite regularly in your sermons, and you did it well here. You just be like, that's the king to run with. And so like you pick up pieces of it and turn it different ways, which all serves to help make your argument. Yeah.
I think this is something that I've seen the last couple sermons, but I don't necessarily remember being as like evident in your first few sermons I heard in the course. But you have a really good knack for, or you have this ability to engage while explaining, and just little things that really help someone like me out, just to engage and think about it in a different way. David's leaving the HQ. You know, it's kind of funny, but it's like, all right, no, this is like his spot, like Jerusalem, right? It's the headquarters. And then your little line on marriage, like till death do us part, it almost humorous, but you're enjoying explaining, and you're enjoying explaining, and you're doing it in an engaging way. And I think that's great. It's really enjoyable to listen to and helpful, informative to get through the story.
I was gonna say, similar to Bondin, you said you tried to restructure the way and how we usually get like, all right, here's catch up on where we are in the story, and then you start your story, but you had your literary context in later places to explain things like why David was afraid, and just the use of questions like, here's this mighty warrior who's beat all these people, all this other literary context from the book, why was he afraid, and then to go back to his sin. I thought you used that really well.
Yeah, and piggyback on that, I thought you used a whole lot of different rhetorical tools well, but they weren't, you didn't use them just to be using them, they all sort of helped what you were doing. So there's runs, I like the questions, you know, that you kept coming back to, all that type of thing. And then the sort of the flourishes, you know, in terms of repetition. So I just thought that rhetorically, it was just really, again, satisfying to me that it actually worked, and it wasn't distractive, I guess, in one sense. So I thought it was well done.
I enjoyed how you told the story and just hit certain verses, just to point out what we were saying, make your statements, and you know, all the rhetorical tools that you use. It's really good.
All right.
Amen.
Thank you, brothers.
Thank you.
Sister.